There's a light between an energy and seam, connection so profound, like a flowing stream. It whispers in the silence, guiding our way, and growing stronger with each passing day. Like hitchhiking, it's of coastal view, unveiling trees, song told, breaking free the law. The killed work. Hang on, feel funny and fuel.
Welcome to the Light Between podcast. Got a question for you, my dear beloveds. Do you ever feel confused by what you are responsible for in a relationship with others? Do you wake up in the middle of the night and rerun confusing conversations trying to figure out where you went wrong or someone else went wrong or who is in the wrong? So when our emotions are high, and the people in front of us have similarities with others in our lives, our brains become very easily confused. And this can be this enmeshment that we feel, whether it's friendships or in family. And we can be dismayed from looking back at how we feel like our parents have done us wrong in our childhood. And we react to situations that may not be truly occurring. This, my friends, is projection. When we look at the brain and the mechanics, this is the amygdala, that part of the brain that holds emotional experiences and is the central cognition that takes form in the brain connections in traumatic moments, no matter if it's big T or little t. It doesn't know time, therefore isn't very good being able to thread that apart. So these are what we call these unresolved moments of the past that live in our present. And this causes all of these crazy, mysterious layers of our life to collapse into a signal, recognizable flavor of what we call projection. What I want to bring about in this podcast is so important. And what I want to share is support for these restrictive narratives that are limiting our lives, our choices, and how we can start to step back into the understanding and deep compassion of fluidity in this dance of projection with self, with others, so that instead of being stifled by these feelings, these emotions, and our realities, so that we can understand and have more capacity and more self-compassion. This is really about understanding the very blueprint of our relationships and how we can rewrite this experience through deeper connection and understand our wholeness as is. So let's go ahead and dive in. So first, I want to talk about the map of connection and how our early experiences shape this reality. So I want you to think about your brain as an intricate map. One that begins forming the moment you were born, and quite frankly, prior to you were born, based on the soul contract that you choose. The soul group, the soul family that you choose to be born into, to both learn from, and some more advanced souls, just like the psychic reading that I had in a holographic reading that I had with a client tonight, of understanding that she chose her family to be a leader, to be someone that was to be an example. And so this map is built through your earliest relationships. And we are trying to be predictive in our tiny little brains when we are born. And sometimes there is warmth and sometimes there is not. And we are inconsistent and overwhelmed in our experiences, depending on how our parents show up in our lives. And they also have a soul contract that they get to choose as they have children and how attentive they are. So this is all free will. So I want to say that, okay? So there's no blame, all free will, and all learned experiences. But here I want to make more sense of this. So these early interactions literally shape the architecture of our brains, and it creates what's known as your attachment style. Now, these attachment styles are like blueprints for how we connect with others, and they guide how we experience intimacy, how we handle conflict, and how we interpret the emotional cues of those around us. Now, let's talk about these 4 different attachment styles. Number 1 is secure attachment. This is a foundation of safety and trust. You feel seen, you are soothed, and you are supported. Number 2 is anxious attachment. This is where there is this essence of constant worry. And this worry comes from a foundation of abandonment, leaving you hyper focused on others' approvals and availability to you. The third is avoidant attachment. And this is a protective distancing where emotional closeness feels very overwhelming and feels very unsafe. The fourth is disorganized attachment. And this is a confusing mix of seeking connection and fearing it, often rooted in the early trauma of unpredictability. Okay. So we have secure attachment where you have safety and trust, anxious attachment where there's constant worry because of abandonment, leaving you hyper focused on how others are going to approve of you. Third is avoidant attachment, which is this protective distancing because you don't know, because there is no closeness that is felt and it's often overwhelming and unsafe. So there's this pushing people away. And there's disorganized, where it's confusing, where there's this a mix of pulling you in and then fearing that it's going to be gone. And this is often the unpredictability part of trauma as a child. So, what is so fascinating is that these styles don't just live in the past, they are actively shaping how our navigation system is in our relationships today, showing up powerfully through, again, going back to the topic for today, projection. So when we look at projection, and we're seeing it in the world through this tinted lens from our attachment styles, I want you to imagine holding a flashlight in a dark room. And wherever you point it, you illuminate what's there. But what if the flashlight's lens had a color or a pattern to it? That distortion would affect everything. This is projection, my friends. So projection happens when we unconsciously cast our inner world, our earlier stated attachment style, and that distortion is projected into everything that you see. It happens when our inner world has our fears and insecurities, and on that attachment, unmet needs, fears, and insecurities is projected onto others. And instead of seeing people as they truly are, we see them through the filter of our own unresolved experiences. Now, this is no fault of yours, my friend. I want you to bring so much self compassion as we bring the unconscious conscious. And there is a fabulous quote that I love with that, by the way, from Carl Jung, one of my favorite archetypal teachers. It says, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. And that's what this beautiful podcast is about. So now we move into all of my research and years of experiencing through my own healing, as well as how I bring this into my holographic psychic readings of self resonance. And resonance means everything, my friends. So let's talk about cleaning up this lens of the flashlight. How do we move beyond projection? How do we see the world and others more clearly? The answer lies in self resonance. So, self resonance is about cultivating a deep connection with your own inner world. It's like cleaning the lens of that flashlight or cleaning the lens of your bifocals so you can illuminate reality, light, love, and universal law of what truly is without the distortion. Because your soul is whole, holy, and complete. It just gets a little bit distorted through all these different lenses that as we evolve, as we move into the fifth dimension, that this is our job right now. It is to find self-compassion, self-resonance as we go through this process, and it begins with awareness. So we want to start by noticing our reactions. So what we want to bring attention to is, are you reacting or overreacting to small comments? Are you assuming someone's intentions without clear evidence? And are you replaying scenarios in your mind, searching for a hidden meaning? These are moments of emotional intensity that are all little tiny loving breadcrumbs leading you back to unresolved rooms and unresolved wounds that are actually unmet needs. So when we talk about self resonance, it involves both being aware, being able to be with your heart, and then moving into mindfulness. Because if we can find that heart space of just being able to pause and saying, what if I'm being projected on or I'm projecting onto someone else? And where can I just find a sense of peace and calm in my heart right now and understand that the truth will reveal itself. And we all need support along this road. So if we can pay attention to your thoughts, your feelings, and the sensation without judgment, when you notice yourself projecting, just pause, ask, what am I feeling right now? Is this reaction about the present moment, or is it tied to something from the past? And this is how we start healing attachment wounds. This is how we rewrite the blueprint of basically our neurology. And when we look at the deeper resonance to trauma and how this is interwoven into our nervous system, we can start to detach the judgment and we can start healing because it all begins with understanding. It's not about blaming your caregivers or yourself. It is about recognizing how your early survival strategies shaped you, saved you, how the archetypes of the shadow comes into the light. And these patterns were adaptive. They help you navigate every fucking environment as a child. It helped you navigate through your childhood into your adult years that may no longer serve you. So, one powerful tool for healing and uncovering what we call unconscious contracts. Number one, of course, a holographic reading is exactly what we do. We find through my psychic scene, I can see where the chakra distortions are. The chakras are nothing more than energy bodies that are attached to unconscious contracts. And an archetype may be a wounded child, it may be a perfectionist, right? So we go into the archetype and then we find the light in that through the unconscious contract. And these are unspoken agreements that you made with yourself as a child to feel safe. Bless your heart. So, what these may sound like, I won't express my needs so I don't burden my mother. I'll take care of everyone else so I'm not abandoned. And so, by bringing these contracts to light, you can begin to rewrite them by renegotiating the terms of an old agreement that no longer aligns with who you are or who you want to become. And you send that blessing to the other. You free yourself autonomously. So, the role of resonance is the healing. Healing does not happen in isolation, it happens in relationship. So, both with others and with yourself. And a lot of time, we need others to be with us, to resonate with us, to feel what it feels like to be safe in this projection, whether you're projecting onto others or being projected onto. There is no judgment on either side. It is just bringing it into light, love, and universal law. So when someone truly sees you, when they hold space for your emotions lovingly and with objectives and offers empathy without judgment, it literally rewires your brain, your nervous system, and aligns you back with your soul contract so boldly that you cannot deny it. And so this is what is called a earned secure attachment. And what I mean earned is a reconfiguration of alignment with your soul contract with secure attachment. How do I explain this? Gosh, I had this beautiful image of this well coming up in my psychic reading today. And it's like that. It's like water seeping into dry, cracked soil, or It's the kintsugi Japanese vision of the cracked pot that the gold comes in and fills it in, right? So over time, that soil softens and becomes fertile for new growth to emerge. So, this is the beautiful part that you can also offer in resonance to yourself. So, when difficult emotions arise, sadness, fear, anger, don't push them away. Sit with it. Say to yourself, I see you. I'm here with you. It's okay to feel this way. This is an act of self compassion that turns into transformation. It teaches your nervous system that it is safe to feel, it is safe to connect, and it is safe to heal. And this is how the brain chemistry of connection works. It's how trauma is resolved. They play very distinct roles in connection. The left hemisphere is logical, it is task oriented, it thrives on dopamine, and it loves the reward. Okay. So that reward transmitter, neurotransmitter, is also attached to the masculine. Now, if we look at the right hemisphere, the feminine, it's emotional, it's intuitive, it is relational, it thrives in neuroepinephrine, which fuels novelty, discovery. And so when we're securely attached in these two hemispheres, and when they're working in harmony, where you can be with the emotion, you can understand that you may not have to logically resolve it right now, but you can be with the feeling and have self compassion and forgiveness for self through old attachment styles. And that attachment is disrupted through trauma, neglect, or inconsistent care. This balance then breaks down. We might become over logical. We detach. We're over emotional. We're overwhelmed. And healing involves restoring this balance back to your soul's contract. I came into this life to learn this experience, to integrate both sides of the brain so that I can approach relationships with more clarity, compassion, and complete self responsibility. So, with closing of this podcast, this is a beautiful journey in the holographic soul. And as I wrap up, I want to leave you with this. Your attachment style, the projections, and the patterns are not flaws. They are simply adaptations of the archetypal soul trying to move through this life incarnation, learning the lessons that you are here to learn. There are ways you learn to survive in the world, and these are not always predictable and they're not always kind, but they are understanding that we bring into the presence. And every single time you bring them into the present and you have the logic where you understand where that came from, you have the self compassion of the feminine ancient mother coming in to say, archetypally, you're loved, you're whole. There's nothing here to blame on self or other, but to completely understand the human experience. The fact that you are here listening, exploring, and learning to this point in the audio, that's a testament to your resilience. Healing is a journey. It's messy, it's not linear, and it's profoundly beautiful. So, as you take these steps, whether it's in noticing your projections, exploring your attachment style, or offering yourself more compassion, remember that you are not alone. We are all in this journey together as we move from 3, 4, and 5D. And learning and growing and healing is part of that process. And I'm so appreciative of you because you are here on the most magnificent, most beautiful time of all of time in history. That is, we as a society all come together to globally understand that we are no longer in the cognitive world. We are moving into the heart space and the holographic world. We are moving into the galactic understanding that our angels are here to support us, that we are moving into a Mercury retrograde, where we call in retrogrades in the world of astrology as messengers of gods, that they have in store for us, that they are guiding us, that we have a team, that we are getting ready for some twists and turns ahead. but these little conversations about truth in a world where we have AI fakes, we have a world that politically lies to us but calls it truth. We are in a time of the fourth level of truth that's now moving into the fifth level of truth, where we take full on 100% responsibility. So I love you so much. And I hope that this podcast served you in uncovering the truth around unconscious contracts. These unspoken agreements were formed in childhood to maintain safety and security for love. And that is an honest gesture, my friend. So, as the holidays come about, as you may feel projected on or project onto others, may we take self responsibility. And in conclusion, that remember that projection and attachment styles are just indicators. They are not failures or reflections of your innate adaptability and ability to grow and to heal. And if you sense that you want to cultivate more self resonance, truth, and responsibility in your life as a leader through self awareness, I invite you into a holographic reading where we understand the archetype that was adapted as a child. We bring it into the light, and then we untie that unconscious contract clearly. You'd be amazed at how clean and how clear your thinking, your body, and your future looks when you have this clarity in your mind, body, and soul. So, all my love, all my light, I hope this served you. We'll see you on the next podcast of The Light Between.
The light between and energy unseen. It whispers in silence, guiding all. Intuition growing stronger with each passing day. The light between is a unveiling truths and pull. Hands quick, like the light between. It's upon the wall remove. In the spaces between words, in the moments of pause, the light between it, a line for universal laws. It speaks in whispers, in the depths of your soul. That you knew thing word, oh did you hold it? The light between, it's a sky. Unveiling truths and soul. Intuition. But the chilling cold. Let the light guide you. Let intuition lead. In the dance of life, you'll find what we need. The light between an eternal flame, igniting your path never the same. The light between. It's like intuition blossoms, spirits entwine. The 20-day wheel. The light between them. One very shoes and cold. Intuition. Intuition.